Greetings! I am Rainverse, your local explosion enthusiast. This video marks the first entry in my new Hype Hunters series, which aims to shine a light on monsters that are just super cool, since there's a billion channels dedicated to ecology out there already. We're starting this series off strong with a personal favorite of mine hailing from Generation 5, the invading tyrant, the party crasher, Bazelgeuse, Bazelgeuse.
暴鳞龙
First introduced in Monster Hunter The World, Bazelgeuse is an invader-type monster up there with the likes of Bazelgeuse and Rajang, except significantly cooler than either of them. Allow me to explain. Bazelgeuse is the Chad grind set in monster form. Wherever they roam, other large monsters including Bazelgeuse and Rajang are forced to respect their explosive might, allowing Bazelgeuse to act as an apex predator in any environment it pleases. While they may be scavengers, their method of scavenging is what sets them apart from the rest. Bazelgeuse will find a monster chowing down on their own prey and proceed to carpet bomb them with the forbidden pine cones, forcing any other large monsters to flee and sending smaller monsters and hunters to the afterlife with same-day shipping. To Bazelgeuse, what's his is his and what's yours is also his. After all, no meal tastes better than one you reduce someone to their base particles for. If a living creature is breathing in an area a Bazelgeuse has marked out for itself, the situation will be rectified immediately, via extreme violence. If its Doom Guy tier aggressive personality hasn't sold you on this monster, let's take a look at how it fights. Every evolutionary adaptation this species had to make, from the massive imposing four-limb wings to the hard as steel crest which carries the bulk of its ordnance, makes Bazelgeuse less of a wyvern and more a B-52 that hates you specifically. In a prolonged engagement, Bazelgeuse enters its superheated state, glowing red with seething power. Speaking of seething, introduced in the Iceborne expansion, Bazelgeuse was graced with the seething variant, which somehow manages to be even more badass than the original flavor. The seething Bazelgeuse, incensed by many hours of deco farming, is in the heated state by default and can power up even further as its anger increases. At full power, this living cluster bomb glows purple-white to signify a heat that the sun itself would be envious of. Propelled by its bristling rage, the seething variant's scales explode almost instantly without the need for a bombing run, resulting in the near-certain extermination of any hunters who fail to respect its might. Now, as we all know, a monster's coolness or the quality of its fight is ultimately irrelevant if its gear looks like shit. Fortunately, this is not the case for my boy Bazelgeuse. Many of the Bazelgeuse weapons feature the same glowing red markings as a heated Bazel. But I'd really like to focus on the dual blades. Now, I don't use DBs, but just look at these things. A pair of hand axes. If I wasn't married to the switch axe, I would have switched mains immediately just to use these things. My only real complaint about the Bazel weapons would have to be that the lance is the only one that actually gets the full seething Bazelgeuse color scheme. But they all look really cool regardless, even with World's slap-on weapon system. Moving on to the armor, it's nothing special, at least until you get the Master Rank version, which, well, I mean, just look at this thing. If you don't think this is one of the coolest armor sets in the game, I don't know what to tell you except eat a bull. Overall, I give Bazelgeuse a fat man out of little boy and cement it as one of the coolest monsters of all time. You can fight me on this, but you'll still be wrong. Hey. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider liking and subscribing, as my self-worth is tied directly to metrics dictated entirely by an arbitrary algorithm.